still got to figure everybody out.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let me get a little look here at that little fella. Now, this happens to be
for president.
this happens
65.
this happens to be a young fella and his wife and the little one, and they happen to be friends of my niece Julie Jaddock, and pushing for them, and I'm pushing for them here too at the Optimist Club meeting today. And there's their little sign there. Can't beat that. And now give me the names. What's the name of the little one?
Andre.
Andre, and your name is?
Cole and Rebecca.
Rebecca. Well, pay attention.
Wayne, don't forget about Wayne.
Now you got this guy here, Wayne. Wayne, I got him pushing for Julie too.
I went to see him when he was in the hospital, and it's like he's standing out by the wall, and all these nurses and doctors in there, and I'm wasting my time. But that's the way I felt about it, you know.
Are you married to one of the
Yes, not John.
No, that's for sure. Where are you going with this?
housing laws here in the country. So I enjoy doing that. And I realize the real estate.
Oh, yeah. They built that. He said, well, you can't prove it by now.
You're the most amazing person. I love Mr. Davis.
Yes.
And I'm just doing good work.
Bill somebody else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bill. Well, I just,
It's a slobber spot.
Get over there beside him. Let me get a picture of you, Congressman there. There's a lady there. Get there by the lady. And then we'll turn this guy around. Turn around here, sir. Turn around. Turn around here and we get that little one in the congressman. Get that little one with the congressman. Oh, Thomas. Come up there, right there. Now there's our congressman there, right there, from our district here.
You need to pull in a little bit.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
What he said about this,
You got a show plane?
it's interpreted exactly.
Okay. Competition babies, bro.
Smile.
Better your odds.
Senator from the 17th Senatorial District. Beautiful. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
I'm up and moving.
That's right. Glad to have you back.
Y'all mind passing one of these down? That's for my niece.
I'm sorry, what was your name? I'm sorry?
Harriet, Harriet.
Harriet, okay.
I'm one that,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I believe so, yeah. Okay, and then for your side? You can have a free cup, yeah. And you said medium on that?
Yes, please.
On rye?
Yes.
Okay. Will that be all for you?
There's the greatest right there. And thanks for filming for us. Thomas, bless your heart.
Hey, how you doing? Let me
Now,
shake your hand. Give you a fist
I
bump.
just got out of the hospital, you know.
Oh my gosh.
30 days. I had the heart patient put in and got to go back to the doctor this afternoon. And then April the 10th, I got to go back and get a restart on it.
Well,
And
then you don't want to be looking at my debt clock because it's not good for your heart.
right, and then take one of those because
okay.
that happens to be my niece.
Oh, okay.
And the Robinson Family Singers.
Uh-huh.
And that's Damon Thayer's seat, Senator.
Oh, okay.
And she runs in southern Kenton County.
Okay.
And all of Grant, all of Scott, and part of Fayette.
How many people are running in that race?
2 in the Republican primary.
Okay.
And 1 in the Democrat.
Well, wish her luck for me.
I will do that. She's a wonderful girl. She believes like you believe, conservative.
See that.
And she's a teacher and Sunday school teacher, head of the education department, one of the largest churches there in Georgetown. And
You must be proud of.
I'm very proud of her. She, on one of my pictures back from 1975, she's on that picture with me inside of an old Greyhound bus reading on the book that I got signed in every county when I ran for Commissioner of Agriculture. Wow. And she was just a little twin girl sitting there, a little blonde girl, in the picture with her parents and my brother. And we sang on that bus to all 120 counties in Kentucky in 1975.
Wow.
That's a little history.
That's amazing. Good to see you.
God bless you.
Working Tea Party meeting tonight.
Huh?
Working Tea Party meeting.
We got one server here today, so just need to make sure. That's Alex.
Has everyone gotten a chance to place their order?
Anybody not ordered yet? They'll be bringing in the food. Take one right over here at the bar, Alex.
Okay.
All right, welcome to the Covington Optimist Club. My name's John Middleton. I'm past president. We're going to go through some of our corporate formalities that we usually do. We'll do a prayer, we'll do our Optimist Creed, and then the pledge. Then I'll introduce our introducer for our speaker today, which I'm sure all of you know who the speaker is today. That's probably why you're here. So, but let us start with prayer if you'll bow with me. Our gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be in a free country, to be able to make decisions about our elected leaders. We thank you for our elected leaders and for our Congressman Thomas Massie, for all that he does to represent us in Washington, D.C. We ask that you enter into his lives and help him to make important decisions for all his constituents here in Northern Kentucky. We ask that you bless this food to the nourishment of our body and mind to the everlasting service. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. Amen. Optimist Creed. Promise yourself. Peace of Islam. And nothing can disturb the peace of mind. Health, happiness, and prosperity. And every person you meet. Make all your friends feel that someone in them. Look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. To think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. To be just enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own. to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times, and give every living creature you meet a smile. It gives so much time to improve on yourself that you have no time to criticize others. To be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to make the presence of trouble. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The format is going to be, once we introduce the speaker, he's going to speak for 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to take a break, and hopefully we can get the food in here, everybody can get eating. And then during the break, we're going to pass out cards for you to write questions. And then the congressman will take a few of the questions, as many as he can get done in that time frame, and then he'll wrap up and be on his way. He's got to get back to the office. He's got, I think he said 30 other requests for speakers to go through. So we really appreciate him being here.
Amen.
Yes, amen.
So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Janine Bell-Smith, past president and current program chair of the Covington Optimist, who's going to introduce our special speaker for today. Janine.
Everybody here okay?
Yep.
Welcome, Optimist friends. I am Janine Bell-Smith, past president of the Optimist Club, secretary and program director. We meet every Wednesday at PeeWee's place at 2325 Anderson Road in Crescent Springs. And for our TBNK viewers, today is Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2024. Today's presentations will be videoed and rebroadcast on Spectrum Channel 203, Cincinnati Bell Alpha Fiber on Channel 815, and will be rebroadcast at 8 p.m. And in order to stay connected with the telecommunication broadcasts of Northern Kentucky, you can go to TBNK on the go, TBNK on demand, and TBNK, and of course, the Optimist Facebook. James Warlock is our program director, editor, Cameron. He makes our rebroadcast possible. We thank you, James, and TBNK. Today, I have an exceptional honor to introduce Thomas Massie. He is our congressional representative of the 4th District in the state of Kentucky. He was elected in 2012. The 4th Congressional District stretches across northern Kentucky, about 280 miles along the Ohio River. Thomas Massie has worn many hats. A graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, earning a BA in electrical engineering. He holds a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Thomas lives on a farm in a house that he built. It's off the grid.
On the ridge.
Thank you, appreciate that. His home is solar powered. He lives in Lewis County with his wife Rhonda and 4 children, but I think several have been there.
All of them,
Yeah, they're all gone now, so your nephew and sister.
No more free living.
Thomas is also an inventor, inventing 3D technology software. He co-founded Sames Able Technologies. Thomas holds how many patents?
30.
30 now.
30.
Patents, yes,
Wow.
30. I had 24 from them 4 years back. Thomas served as the Lewis County Judge Executive in 2010 to 2012 until he was elected in 2012 as U.S. Congressman of Kentucky's 4th District. Thomas serves on many very important committees, and I'm sure there's more that I have marked here. But he is on the House Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure, having jurisdiction over roads, bridges, my friends, mass transit, rail, roads, aviation, maritime, and waterborne transit. He also serves on the Judiciary Committee and has held which has jurisdiction over the laws that affect intellectual property, individual and industrialized hemp, civil liberties and firearms. Thomas has been known as the Congressman of No. That means K-N-O-W, no. Why is Thomas known as the Congressman of K-N-O-W? You may ask, well, the answer is because he reads the bills. He researches the bills and he looks for that pork barrel spending and readily votes no. One thing that I always like about Thomas was he always requested recorded vote, providing accountability and documentation of your representative's vote. My pleasure to introduce Thomas Massie to the Optimist Club. We the people of the Blue Pass are proud of his
Well, thank you for having me here today. I think I was first here in 2012, and I've tried to be here, I think, every year since then, and it's a great opportunity. I have an admission to make, though. And as far as optimism goes, I'm here not to make a deposit, but to make a withdrawal. It's coming from Washington, D.C., it's hard these days to be very optimistic. But I do try to wear a cheerful countenance in the creed here. You know, even if it's all going to hell around you, you might as well smile. And one time, Kevin McCarthy came to me on the floor. Now, he was the whip at the time. He since moved to majority leader and then speaker. And we weren't on great terms at the time. We since have become on better terms. But at the time, he saw I was smiling. And he asked me, he said, Massie, why are you always smiling? And I told McCarthy, I said, because, you know, 1% of the time I'm winning. And 99% of the time, you've got it so screwed up, I'm laughing. So that's about the ratio. But that's a pretty good ratio. And in any case, you can always find a reason to smile. Thank you, Janine, for that very gracious introduction. It's been a while since I used my electrical engineering degree in Congress. Actually, it's been forever. But I figured out a way to do it and induce, my goal was to induce some anxiety and some sense of urgency among my colleagues. So I built this debt badge that I wear. And I wrote all the code for it. Now, I don't want you to think I was wasting time in the majority. I did this while we were in the minority, which you have a lot of time when you're in the minority. But now that we're in the majority, I don't really have time to build something like a debt badge. But this goes to Treasury's website once a day using Wi-Fi. It gets the debt to the field, and then it updates it continuously through the day based on the debt per second. And I regret to inform you, the debt per second just reached $100,000. That's how much debt we incur per second on average over the last 1 year window, $100,000. So I keep it right here on my breast pocket.
You ought to sell those.
Well, I don't want to monetize the debt, but because that's what the other people in DC are doing. But so I wear it here, and I get a lot of questions from congressmen, especially when I'm stuck in an elevator. You know, you're stopping at every floor, and it's just you and another congressman, and they can't help but look at it. And I've had some people ask me, is this the number of steps I've taken? No, if Jesus were still walking in his sandals, he wouldn't have taken this many steps. It's just not possible. But I did, my wife told me that I should say something to these congressmen when I catch them staring at my chest. She said, tell them your eyes are up here. So I tried this joke out. I was on the floor of the House wearing my debt badge, and Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne from Texas was staring at it. She was kind of in a trance, and I said, Beth, my eyes are up here. And she said, immediately, she said, why didn't you make it into a belt buckle? That was my wife's joke. I don't know where to go from here. So you do have to have a little bit of fun with it, but there is some serious issues that we're dealing with. And so I'll get into some of those. So I am on 4 committees now. I used to spend my time in Congress just trying to stay on my committee and not getting kicked off of committees. And I think as punishment, they put me on more committees instead of taking me off of committees. So I'm on the Judiciary Committee, which does deal with firearms. So, you think it's all about the courts or something, and I'm not an attorney, I'm an engineer, but it touches all aspects of life. So industrial hemp, because we have jurisdiction over regulating illicit drugs, and so hemp was categorized as that. So it had to go through judiciary to change that. Firearms, that's a federal crime, and so it turns out we have jurisdiction over federal crimes, and particularly the Bill of Rights. So the Second Amendment is in the Judiciary Committee. So that's one reason I wanted to be there, but also patents. Intellectual property is covered by the Judiciary Committee, and they wanted somebody who actually had a patent to be on that committee, so that when this topic comes up, you know what the downstream ramifications are of the bill. And a lot of these bills, honestly, are not introduced by, but written by lobbyists and given to congressmen, and they're like, hey, this is a good idea, you should do that. And sometimes I have to look at their bill and say, this is a horrible idea. You shouldn't do that. And if you bring this bill up in our committee, I'm going to tell everybody how it's horrible and why it's horrible. And so some days you're just stopping bad ideas from happening. Sometimes you can get good things through. We also, one active area in the Judiciary Committee this year is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is up for reauthorization. The Judiciary Committee has jurisdiction over the FBI and DOJ. And so this is a program that was set up to spy on foreigners who were overseas, but they've been abusing the program to spy on Americans. Because once they go to the email servers and start collecting information, they collect a lot of your information. And they don't destroy the information. They keep it around and they say, hey, wouldn't it be handy to go fishing in that haystack? It's actually, terabytes of data for Americans. Now, you could do that, but our Constitution requires a warrant if you want to go searching through information. So anyways, you got to have a warrant. That's something that we are revising in the FISA program this year, hopeful to get that passed on the floor of the House. I'm on the Transportation Committee, have a great relationship with the CVG Airport. Unfortunately, Candace McGraw, who's been the CEO there and done just a wonderful job, she got Amazon there, which helped really during COVID when passenger flights were down. Our airport was one of the best airports in terms of keeping going without bailouts and handouts, because she had diversified, and we've got DHL there, we've got Amazon doing cargo. So love helping out the CVG Airport whenever I can. We've got 3 locks and dams in this Congressional District. That's really important to keep commerce flowing. And while I'm on that topic, some of you unfortunately may have seen the bridge that was taken out by a vessel, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland. And that was a foreign flagged vessel. And there's a law in the United States. I've caught some flack for supporting this law. It's called the Jones Act. And it says you can't have foreign flagged or foreign crewed vessels on the inland waterways. So when you look out and see a barge, you know it's not a Chinese vessel, it's not made in China, it's not crewed by people from China. Those are Americans on an American ship working for an American company. Probably should call it a boat, not a ship. But anyways, that's a bill I support, because who are you going to blame if they take out a bridge piling? That could happen on the Ohio River. Just want to let you know that's one of the things I support there. On the Weaponization of Government Committee, which was a committee just set up this year to make sure, well, actually, unfortunately, we confirmed that the government has been infringing on your First Amendment rights using Twitter and Facebook. A lot of that came to light in our committee thanks to Elon Musk, and so we've had hearings on that, and we've introduced a bill that says if a government official encourages social media to censor you, and they are infringing on your First Amendment, even though they're not the ones doing it exactly, that's still by construction they are infringing. And so we introduced a bill, and hopefully we can get this passed, that says if that happens to you, you can sue the government official that is infringing on your First Amendment rights. Now, it would only take just a very few lawsuits. Not all of you would have to bring a case, but as soon as somebody in their personal capacity becomes responsible, they'll start having like in-services. They'll do PowerPoints. Their bosses will say, here's how you don't infringe on people's rights, and here's how you don't get sued and find yourself in a court of law. So anyways, that's bringing accountability. And then finally, I'm on the Rules Committee. which is a committee a lot of people don't know about. It's been called the Speakers Committee because historically the speakers controlled it since the 1960s. And every bill that comes out of a committee, well, at least until recently, goes through the Rules Committee before it goes to the floor of the House, and it gets tuned up there. And this is where a lot of the sort of malfeasances happen. They'll insert amendments that pass themselves. A bill, like changes to the bill that pass themselves when you just vote for a procedural thing, which shouldn't be a legislative function when you're doing something procedurally. So there's a lot of nefarious stuff that happens in the Rules Committee, or has happened until 3 of us got on there and got a blocking position to keep it from keep the bad stuff from happening. And we've imposed, I'm very happy to report this, we maintain for the first time in the 12 years I've been in Congress, the 3-day rule, which they have suspended for the last 12 years, whether it was Pelosi or Boehner or Ryan, they always suspended this rule. We're supposed to, in our own rules, have 3 days to read every bill. Now, some of my colleagues, you give them 3 years, they won't read the bill. But he gives you, and they complain to me, Massie, if we gave you 3 years, you're still going to vote no. You know, but what it really does is it gives you time to read the bill, because it goes on a website, and you have a day to read it, or a day to see it in the newspaper, and then a day to call your congressman and say, do or don't vote for this. Because an accountant could read it and say, well, that's bad tax law, and I know because I do people's taxes, and so they could call their congressman and give them feedback. And so we maintained that all the way up until last week. And I'm sad to report, we were able to maintain that firewall and keep the 3-day rule using my position on the Rules Committee and 2 other people. But they have now started taking rules or bills straight to the floor without going through Rules Committee. In order to do that, they have to get a 2/3 vote to pass it. But for the first time in 14 months, they suspended the 3-day rule to pass the omnibus, and I'm not too happy about that. That's why I'm here, to get some optimism from you all. How much more time do I have, Jean? Okay, 5 more minutes. I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for questions, and I'll do speed round when we get to those. Some of the things that need addressed that aren't getting addressed, the border. What's really frustrating is we're going to go back to Congress Monday or Tuesday, and the Speaker says the first thing we're going to vote on is not the border. The first thing we're going to vote on is money for other countries, for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and I think those should all be separate votes, but they are going to combine all of those into one package so that they can blame you for not supporting one country if you don't support them all. And I think that's legislative malpractice. It doesn't lend itself well to accountability. I would like to be able to stand here and say I voted for this reason, and against this for that reason. But when they throw it all together, it's pretty hard to do. Then you're faced with 2 bad choices, yes or no, since it's all together. So that's unfortunately what we're going to be doing when we go back. I'm urging the Speaker, who I'll probably talk to today, to bring up our border security. We need to secure our own border before we go abroad and start trying to secure borders overseas. So that's the main thing that we'll be working on when we get back. Some of the things that I've done recently, when they suspend our rules and try to do sort of a quarterback sneak and bring a bill to the floor, they have to get 2/3 vote for it. But there's also this procedural maneuver that we have recently employed. For 10 years, I was the only person who had ever done it. It had recognized that it was doable, but now we do it quite frequently. When the Republicans are for a bill and the Democrats are for a bill, and they suspend the rules and bring it to the floor, they each get 20 minutes to debate. But if you stand up and say, oh, hold on, Mr. Speaker, I have noticed that this party is going to debate for the bill, and this party is going to debate for the bill. There is nobody in opposition. I claim 20 minutes in opposition. And I've been able to do this. So what happens is I get 20 minutes, the Republicans are reduced to 10 minutes, and the Democrats are reduced to 10 minutes. And then I yield time to people who have opposing views to what is sometimes the uniparty on any particular given day. And so it's been really important. Most people don't listen to debates like most congressmen, but they've started listening to our debates. Because what happens is the Republicans come down with 20 minutes of prepared remarks, right? And the Democrats have 20 minutes of prepared remarks. And then they find out they're only going to get 10 minutes to read their prepared remarks. And then there's this group of people, Republicans and Democrats. I'll yield time to Democrats if we're on the same side that day. It doesn't frequently happen, but a broken clock's right twice a day. And we give our speeches from the heart. We don't have anything written down. And we give 4-minute speeches, and then we'll yield to somebody else and give a speech. And that's the way Congress used to work. It used to be against the rules to read your speech because it was considered insincere. If you didn't have it in your head and in your heart and couldn't say it, then please don't come to the floor of the House and recite something that somebody has written for you. Now, I've done that before, okay? But I think it's much better to just deliver it from the heart, and you can win the day by giving a debate that way. And the staffers who are watching this on closed circuit TV, in Washington, D.C., when they're watching the debate, they get persuaded, and other members of Congress start watching. They're like, wow, they didn't write their speeches. They're making some good points. This recently happened with the TikTok bill. So they had a bill that presumptively was to ban TikTok, but the reality was it was 13 pages long, and it was going to give the president authority to ban websites, not just TikTok app, any app or website that he deems not owned by a foreign adversary, not in a foreign adversary country, but any social media app or website that he thought was under the control of a foreign adversary. Now, my problem with that is now that Elon Musk has Twitter, which he renamed X, people are saying, oh, well, he's just a Putin stooge. He's like under control of a foreign asset or foreign adversary. And I'm concerned they will use this extra authority to do that. So if they want to pass a bill banning TikTok, pass a bill banning TikTok. Don't put this bigger umbrella in there. And so we were able to spend 20 minutes on the floor giving the opposing side. And even though the bill did pass the House, ultimately, I think we raised enough questions that they didn't bring it up in the Senate. And so sometimes you don't win the vote, but you win the debate, and the thing just sort of dies under its own weight once you expose it. So I guess that's something to be optimistic about. I'll leave you with that bit of optimism, the fact that we've actually been able to get some earmarks stricken from these bills. Struck or stricken, I don't know. I'm from a little bit further east of here. I speak hillbilly. But we've been able to get some of these earmarks taken out of the bills just by exposing them to the light of day. And that's been a success. So anyway, stay optimistic. Thank you for letting me represent you in Washington, D.C. I may not always come up with the answer you would. I might not always have the right answer, but I am always trying and I'm always sincere. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Congressman Massie. We're going to take a break. We've got some food here and lunch, and then we'll be back with questions and we'll pass out some cards. Congressman Massie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, for the yeah, well, we work with
No, I don't know.
Write some questions out.
I hate talking on the phone to people. He's pretty good, isn't he? Yeah, I like him. He kind of stirs up trouble. Makes them do their job.
I don't know, it's an exercise in patience. Oh, okay. Well, you found it. How did you know?
My daughter, and she has yeah, that's his chair.
Do you have any grandkids? Well, you want to pick the
You don't know what I went through. It's all the adjustments on that.
Oh, yeah. Mark Twain said he wanted to be in Kentucky. Everything has to be in your
Did he pick up all his questions we had?
The hymns picked them up yet. Oh, they're right there.
Oh, these are the
Yeah.
I know that I have friends. We have getting old. I got out of watching it for a while. A lot of people call it feminine.
Thomas Massie, Congressman. Thomas, let me get a picture of that over here.
Okay. Here you go.
Of that sign. I want to get a good close-up of that. Hang on.
You'll know what day it was based on the
Just
day.
a second. Beautiful.
All right.
And I love you. And here's my question.
Okay.
Are you ready? Are you ready for Jesus?
There's two more.
I love you.
Same here.
It's a challenge.
You got a question?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, some people have a questions. We have a number of questions here.
Can't even remember.
Speed round.
Speed
Round for Congressman Massie, which he is probably very good at. So I have a feeling of that. So welcome back, Congressman Thomas Massie, for questions for the Covington Optimist Club.
Okay, first question, how do we get rid of the governor? I call him the Andy variant of the Bashir virus. We had the Steve variant, the virus got a little worse each time, but it turns out he's term limited, so in 2027 there'll be a governor's race, and he won't be coming back. I think the Republicans have there are no legacy Democrats left, really, so I think you'll probably get a Republican next time. What do you think about term limits? Okay, we voted on term limits in the Judiciary Committee. Because you can't enforce that with a law, you need a constitutional amendment. So all constitutional amendments come through the Judiciary Committee. And I voted for term limits, but let me warn you, this will not solve all of your problems. When you throw out all the clowns using term limits, who picks the new clowns? The same people that pick the old clowns. So you need to get better at picking clowns. Because term limits is not going to solve all this. But the bill did not make it to the floor. It did pass out of Judiciary this year, and I did vote for it. Although I did also vote for an amendment to allow 12 years in the House. The base bill was 12 in the Senate and 6 in the House. So I voted for an amendment that would allow 12 in the Senate or 12 in the House. I think this is John Sweeten's. Are you ready for Jesus? I would like to think that I am. And we are not looking forward to the end of the world or to our deaths. But we need to be ready, and I want to congratulate Sheriff Korsenborn. He told me he flatlined for real in the hospital, right? And they brought him back thanks to a deputy who was paying attention and he was at bedside doing security detail. I asked the sheriff, well, I thanked him for not walking toward the light and asked him what it was like on the other side. I don't think he got a good look, but hopefully we're all ready for the other side. Who will pay for the bridge? That's a good question. It's probably, going to get paid for with debt. But if we are going to go into debt, there's debt that's okay and there's debt that's bad. If you can't afford a car and you finance it, but you end up with a car that has a value that exists over maybe 10 years, then you can justify it. So if you have to pay for things with debt, the debt will be saddled on your children, but your children get to use that asset. Maybe you go into debt to buy a farm, and they inherit the farm and some of the debt to go with it. That's not such a bad thing, but my aversion to spending money is when you spend it on things that are gone that instant. That it needs to be paid for that instant. Otherwise, you're living in the moment and charging your children and grandchildren for what's coming later. Let's see. What is your view on the geopolitical consequences of Russia winning Ukraine and moving on to the next country? So I think what's going to happen there is probably what would have happened a year ago or 2 years ago. I think Russia will end up with two or three of those provinces. We're not going to reclaim Crimea. Like, we could fight this war for another 5 years or another year. I think Ukraine is running out of young men. The average age is 43, I think, is going into the army now in Ukraine. I think while they can hold their ground, we actually need a settlement. And I don't think, I could be wrong, I mean, and we have NATO in case they do, but I don't think that Russia will go further after this. I think that they see NATO as, when we ended the war, and then for a while we ended the Cold War, right? When the wall came down and we had Yeltsin and we had Gorbachev. What sparked their nationalism again and the rise of Putin, I say Putin is a Cold War relic. He's from another time, right? He's former KGB. He was elected, now I'm not sure their elections are that fair, but he rose to power, let's say. And he does have support of the people, and I think it's somewhat in response to our expansion of NATO. So that's a double-edged sword. We want Europe to be secure, but when we start adopting countries into NATO that really are in their backyard and have no real military advantage or might to offer us, I think it's a double-edged sword. So what are the geopolitical consequences of Russia winning Ukraine? Are you presuming they're going to win, or that it could be preventable?
Thank you. Since it's my question, if we don't support Ukraine, right, to achieve a settlement, let's put it in your terms, right, then, right, they clearly said they want to go after Moldova next and Georgia next, and then do the Baltic states.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what their vice president said that.
Yeah. Well, we need to draw a line and say you can't. I mean, but I think there's going to be a settlement in Ukraine. That's my take. I don't think you're ever going to get Crimea back. For instance.
No, I would say that unless we support Ukraine, right, there won't be a settlement.
And I think maybe that's always hard. If you condition support on a settlement, then Russia may see that as a weakness and say, oh, well, all we got to do is keep at this a little bit longer. So it is a tough issue. But there needs to be accountability for the money that goes there. There's a discussion in the House of Representatives. It turns out right now, in the aid in its current form, less than half Republicans support it. And that is because we're actually paying for their government to exist. We're paying for pensions of retired politicians in Ukraine. So there's been a discussion of making sure that it's all just military assistance, for instance, that we're not subsidizing the government. But I'm still in speed round, so let me. Why can't Congress do something about the border crisis? my parents and husband came from Germany and had to have health checkups to sponsor a job and couldn't make their citizenship to vote until they were here. 5 years, now illegal aliens are able to come and vote in certain states, need to do something now. We are trying to move something to prevent them from voting, from registering to vote, for instance. Because once they get registered to vote, it's hard to stop them from voting. So they should be doing a citizenship check. There's a bill which we're considering right now, it's been written, that requires the states that register voters for federal elections to make sure they do a citizenship check before they register them. Here's one really concerning thing, and I'm concerned because not enough people know about this. The congressional redistricting that happens every 10 years based on the census goes according to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So, for instance, California, their population, as it goes up due to illegal immigration, they get more congressional seats. So they have approximately 6 extra congressional seats in the state of California due to the illegal immigrants there. Congressional seats about 750,000 people. So that would be 4.5 million illegal immigrants, roughly. 4 million illegal immigrants in California causes them to get 6 extra congressional seats. It works the other way, you know, California's a blue state, Texas is a red state, Texas gets a few extra, but West Virginia just lost a congressional seat. They went from 3 to 2 because they don't have illegal immigration to keep their numbers up. Now, this is doubly concerning. Now, let me be clear, I'm not saying the illegal immigrants are voting in those states, although they may be. What I'm saying is that somebody who does get to vote in California, their vote counts for more because they get more representatives. Furthermore, the Electoral College is based on the number of senators in your state, which every state has 2, and the number of representatives from your state. So Kentucky has, for instance, 8 votes in the Electoral College, 6 reps, 2 senators. All of our rep seats are washed out by illegal immigration into California. They have as much representation due to illegal immigration in California as we have reputation at all, or representation at all. Hopefully we got a good reputation. But, so anyways, why can't Congress do something about the border crisis? Honestly, it may take probably does take a change in the White House and a change in the Senate for that to happen. We could be doing more than we're doing now, though, in the House, and we should be doing something about this. And we should be using the power of the purse. When you have divided government, the most power that the House has is the fact that we get to write the spending bill, so that's where we should be doing it. Okay, this card has 3 questions. Steer our government away from economic collapse. I'm trying to do that. I got, in exchange for allowing the debt limit bill to proceed through the Rules Committee, I extracted a concession from Joe Biden and from Chuck Schumer and everybody else in Washington, D.C., that there would be an automatic 1% cut in all discretionary spending on April 30th if we were still doing continuing resolutions. And this was in, by the way, this works for 2 years. So it was in play this year and it's in play next year. They passed the omnibus bill, and which is not a continuing resolution, and took my 1% cut off the table. All the speaker had to do was to pass, I'm not for continuing resolutions. That basically says we're going to spend exactly what we spent last year in the same way and fashion. But if all we had to do was do a continuing resolution for the entire year, and all of discretionary government, I'm not talking about Medicare or Social Security, but everything else like NASA and everything else would have been about 1%. But what happens every year, it's like Groundhog Day, you have a certain number of Republicans who insist on spending more money on their projects, and they will trade money on their projects and allow Democrats to spend more on theirs. What we need to do is say, we'll cut a little bit of ours if you'll cut a little bit of yours. And that's what my 1%, they call it the Massie plan in Washington, D.C. Here's the good news. It's still in play for next year. If we do a CR come September 30th, which is the next deadline, and Jim Jordan is a big supporter of this, so if he could be speaker, he would do a 1-year CR. We would get to April 30th, boom, there'd be a 1% cut and there would be no earmarks. And now, we could either stay in that state for the entire year, or we could have a discussion about what needs to be done on the border. We could use it for leverage, because these people will run over their mothers to get earmarks. And you could use that to your advantage if you were trying to get something out of it. Okay, there's 2 more questions. Economic collapse, then, oh, okay, somebody has been reading my Twitter. Okay. Okay, so I said there's 3 outcomes, and this is basically what I said on Twitter. I'm recognizing it. We're either going to steer our government away from economic collapse. That'd be a preferable outcome. I don't think it's the most likely. There's 3 choices. The second choice is economic collapse. And then we either have totalitarianism, a national divorce, or renaissance. Like, when it collapses economically, the dollar, evaporates, is no longer the currency of choice worldwide. We could, maybe there are some people in Washington, D.C. who would agree with me that, okay, we need to go back to the Constitution. Our problem was we strayed. But there will be people who say, well, what we need now is communism. And they would invite the collapse so that they could get radical change. So I'm not for number 2, economic collapse, even though there are some positive outcomes there. And number 3 is possibilities, the one that scares me the most, the slow devolution into Chinese-style communism, where each generation, but we're seeing it even happen within our generations. We lose a little bit of freedom every 10 years, and then nobody remembers what it was like to be able to just, be free. So these are the 3 outcomes. I think either we're going to be able to steer the government away from collapse, or it's going to collapse, or we're going to have slow devolution into Chinese-style central planning communism. Number 1, why is the taxpayer paying for the bridge and even Mitch McConnell's supports? Why is the taxpayer paying for the bridge? You got to pay for it somehow. I mean, the question is, what's the best allocation of the money? I would, by the way, for the bridge, I think, no pun intended, this is probably water under the bridge by now. But I'm going to Texas. I'm going to CBG Airport. I'm flying to Texas after this, and then I'm going to Florida. And guess what they have in those states? They have like Cadillac lanes, they call them, or Lexus lanes, depending on if you buy a domestic. But Lexuses are made in Kentucky now, some of them. Well, if you really want to get somewhere quicker and you're willing to pay for it, they exist in Virginia, they exist in Washington, D.C., literally everywhere I travel. If time is of the essence to you, you can pay more money and get in a faster lane. And I would use that kind of price differentiation to pay for the bridge. We're me deciding this. How does Biden get by with flying illegals directly into the United States? That has got to stop.
That's right.
It's a danger. And I would say, the person I'm actually going to go see in Florida on Friday is Ron DeSantis. And he and I were best friends in Congress. When he was running for president, they said he had no friends in Congress. I was his friend. I was pretty offended by that. And I'm still his friend, and I do think it's good what some of these states, like Texas and Florida, are doing. Ron DeSantis, if you remember, he flew a bunch of illegals to Martha's Vineyard, where they thought they could live in their ivory tower and never have to deal with these issues. And they told him he would lose his re-election for governor. Guess what? He got 61% of the Hispanic vote a few weeks later, because there are hardworking Americans who believe that you play by the rules and you don't break the rules. And especially a lot of the immigrants, legal immigrants to Florida, who fled true communism. And so, let's see, what else we get. What is being done about the pandemic of pornography that our children are facing? Honestly, I think this is up to the parents. We have a pandemic of non-parenting, and you can't give your kids a phone and believe that they're going to be just fine, that's going to take care. I mean, I have a grandson, by the way, super happy to announce. He's 14 months old. And my daughter and son-in-law, they don't let him have much screen time, they call it, because they know it's not good for him. And so I showed him he was at our house this weekend, and I was showing him a video of roosters crowing, right? And because I took him out and showed him our chickens, and he was delighted by it. And then it started raining, and he wanted to see the chickens again, so I showed him the computer. And they're like, Dad, that's too much screen time. I think we need to, parents need to be parents again, and look at what your kids are doing on their phone. And if you're grandparents, talk to your kids about that. I've almost gotten through all these cards. Okay, Janine's Biden's budget, $175 billion for House Choice Voucher Program in Biden's budget. And this is something I need to research. The encouraging thing that I see here is it says Biden's budget. Well, we don't pass budgets anymore. So the budget is like a wish list, an aspirational document of what you think we should be spending. Now, typically the president does a budget and the House does a budget. I never wanted on the budget committee because they ignore the budget. And hopefully if this is in Biden's budget, we can ignore it. But Janine was telling me this would give, the government would basically go in and buy housing if somebody thinks they wanted to live there and they didn't have a house. I will research this. And then somebody asked about, this is my last question. If I didn't get to yours, it's not because I hit it, I didn't get it. Can we do, on the foreign country, can we itemize how much is spent on each country and where it goes? And we do need to be doing that. By the way, I will not, as long as we've got this much debt and we're not taking care of our own border, I am not voting for the foreign aid. I just don't do it. It actually makes it easier for me when they put it all together, because now there's more things that I wouldn't vote for. But it's going to be about $100 billion. Look, the wall cost, a wall on our border, I think was maybe $15 billion they estimated. This is like 6 or 7 times what it would take to enforce our border, and we're going to send it overseas. What it really is, and I have lobbyists come to my office and say, oh, Congressman Massie, you don't understand. All of this money is coming back to the United States. I'm like, oh, really? How is that? Well, like when we give, by the way, we give Israel $3.8 billion a year. They're talking about giving them another $14 billion a year. All of that money, the 3.8 that we've been giving them every year that I've been in Congress, but also this 14 billion is not money. It is, it's like gift certificates redeemable at your local Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or Boeing. All of this is about the military-industrial complex gets money coming back to them. Every dime, and this is the argument they make for why I should vote for it, because it's supposedly going to enhance our own military-industrial base. We call it defense industrial base now. The problem with that is we're not using it to defend our own country. We're not using it to defend our own borders. So even if that money's coming back here, there are a lot of congressmen who own stocks in these companies. I do not own any stocks in any of the military companies that stand to benefit by this $100 billion program that's foreign aid. It's going to go primarily to Ukraine, then to Israel, then to Taiwan, and there'll be some other companies in there, or countries in there, and then there'll be some more earmarks in it, unfortunately, for Louisiana probably. Okay.
2 minutes to wrap up.
2 minutes to wrap up. Okay, like I said, I'm sure I said something not everybody agrees with here. But I am, my lines of communication are always open. They tell you when you get elected, don't run your own social media account. Make sure staff is doing that, and that way if something goes wrong, you can blame your staff. And then also, don't argue with people on social media. I've broken both of those rules. I am on, and I get people like Saturday night at like 10 p.m. I'm on social media, and they're like, "Why aren't you doing your job?" And I'm like, "It's 10 p.m. on Saturday. You're getting this for free." This great content is all for free. But I actually find that if I do I won't call it arguing. If I do refute or rebut some of the stuff that's on social media, and then I get a rebuttal from them, I actually learn some stuff. And it makes my debates sharper when I go to the floor of the House, because I've heard 10 different arguments, and sometimes it does change my mind, okay? When a constituent gets on there and says, have you considered it from this angle? I was actually, no, I haven't. So I just want to let you know I'm always listening. My mind is not made up on everything. My principles are made up. Can't change those. My adherence to the Constitution is made up. There's three things I use, 3 litmus tests I use when I vote for a bill, and I'll close with this. Is it constitutional? Because if it's not, I can't vote for it. And there are actually some good things that you can do that aren't constitutional. By the way, while I'm on there, well, I'll use this on the next topic. The second one is, can we afford it? So it may be great if we could defend all of these countries, but do we have the money to do it? Are we willing to pay the taxes right now that's going to take to do that? Could I come to you and say, I want to spend 80 billion more in Ukraine, and I'm going to need all of you to pay, 0.5% more of your income tax for that this year? I'd probably get unelected. Like even Democrats might be against raising their taxes. Okay, so number 1, is it constitutional? Number 2, can we afford it? Number 3, is it an appropriate role of the federal government, or should it be done at the state level, or the school board level, or the county level, or the city level? Because a lot of times we're legislating on stuff like, and this oftentimes you get Republicans from California, I know there are a few, they come to Washington, D.C., and they want to fix problems in the state of California with federal law. And I'm like, you should have run for the state legislature, and you need to fix your own state. Because I'm not going to arbitrate like how you deal with your water in California because you're mad at the state legislature. Do you know that murder is not a federal crime? Do people know that? Yeah. Like, I mean, Joe knows this. He spent time, that was his domain. It's a state crime. Murder, our founding fathers never imagined us to legislate on murder or to arrest people for murder or to put them in some federal prison for murder. It's a state crime. Family law is state law. So whenever Congress starts deviating off the path and starts trying to do these things, I'm like, nope, can't vote for that. So is it constitutional? Can we afford it? And is this appropriate role of federal government? Those are all the tests that I will use. If you see me breaking any of those, let me know. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Congressman Massie. We're going to have a few pictures up here with our speaker and our president. And we invite everybody to join us here every Wednesday at PeeWee's at 12 noon. We're doing a lot of great programs for children in our community now. And so we'd invite you to join us. Thank you.
Don't forget my niece, pro-family, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-law enforcement.
This is your niece.
Julie Jaddock.
This is your niece.
That's my niece, Julie Jaddock. God bless you all.
Where she live?
She lives in Georgetown, Scott County.
Okay.
And it's in all of southern Kenton County, part of all of Grant County, part of Kenton County in the south.
Okay.
And all of Grant, all of Scott, and part of Fayette. And she's a mother of 4 children and a teacher.
Good.
And a business person, and very good, very talented, and very honest. Travels with Dr. John Stephenson here at the Optimist Club here in Kenton County. Great to be bringing you this on Travels with Dr. John Stephenson on YouTube and on Facebook under John Stephenson and John A. Stephenson. God bless you all. And if you got a house for sale, or you want to sell, or you want to buy a house, give me a call. Bill DeAndrea, either one of us. Give us a call. Just tell them you're calling John Stephenson, 859-750-0000. 859-750-0000.
She's too good. She just didn't deserve this. You know?
By the way, thanks for serving.
I'm sure she was really
Okay, just push the little tiny camera. Nothing else but the little tiny camera. You got us okay?
Wow, John, how do I,
Maybe it's too close.
you zoomed that thing,
Okay.
I can see your nose hairs, bro.
Hang on just a second here. Let me get it back off the zoom. There you go.
And the little tiny camera, you say?
Tiny camera.
All right, brothers, you ready? We got you, I think. I'm gonna take two just in case. It's not showing up here, John, but
It's okay. You get it.
okay.
As long as you click it there.
It did.
John's niece is running for Damon Thayer's.
Okay. Yeah. What's her last name? Julie Chaddock. Yeah. Did I give you a card?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, she's
Putting her signs up tonight too.
She's a school teacher, Sunday school class education leader there in Georgia. And big church there. And her whole family was the Robinson family singers.
Oh, okay.
Traveled all over the United States playing and singing. And runs their living with that.
Runs in the family.
Four Greyhound buses and two semi-tractor trailers. Wow.
Speaking of our defense industry, why haven't they ramped it up more than what they have? We're spending stuff between Ukraine and the Gulf. And all the possibilities, our defense industry should be ramped up.
Give you one of those.
We're sending it all overseas. Yeah, but we're not replacing it. That's my concern. Having been down there where I watched some of
If
this.
we got into a real fight, we would be low on certain munitions.
Yeah, if you want me to come and sing for you anywhere,
Okay.
I have no money to donate.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, I'll come and sing for you and film it all for you.
Appreciate that, John.
God bless you.
And I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I know when I came in and saw the Army automated, some of the shortages might be in some of